In the last talk, we looked at introducing yourself and your talk. In this lecture, we're going to talk about effective openings, effectively opening your presentation. And here, there are two things we're concerned with. First, what is an effective opening? And secondly, 3 ways to open effectively. So question, what is an effective opening? I can answer that question with an image. An effective opening is a way to hook your audience. In other words, to grab the attention of your audience so they want to listen to your talk. And there are 3 ways that we're going to discuss to do that. First, asking a question that they want answered. This could be asking a question about a problem or an experience. Secondly, tell them something amazing or unbelievable. State some incredible fact. And finally, you can use a quote from a famous person. Okay, so let's talk about asking a question. Here are some expressions for doing that. You may ask the audience, have you ever wondered what it would be like to work 3 days a week? Or, do you know how much CO2 the average American produces? Or if you want to get the audience on your side, how many of you have ever struggled with traffic? So some good expressions for asking questions. Let's take a look at a speaker effectively using questions to open his talk. This is Simon Sinek from 2009's TEDx.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example.
Okay, so you noticed how Simon used a series of questions to grab his audience's attention and make them want to listen more. Let's talk about the second technique for effectively opening your presentation and some expressions right here. Did you know the average American eats his weight in sugar every year? Or what would you say if I told you you have less than 10,000 days to live? Or I read somewhere that, or I read an article about, blah, blah, blah. Or more academically, according to the latest study, 1 in 4 Americans will get cancer within the next 20 years. So some expressions there for stating an amazing fact or an unbelievable fact. Let's look at another example. Jane McGonigal. She's going to open her talk with an amazing fact, and watch how she does that to get the audience's attention.
So here's my special mission for this talk. I'm going to try to increase the lifespan of every single person in this room by 7.5 minutes. Literally, you will live 7.5 minutes longer than you would have otherwise just because you watched this talk. Okay, some of you are looking a little bit skeptical. That's okay, because check it out.
So notice there were a few skeptical looks in the audience, and that's good because she kind of disturbed them. She grabbed their attention. She hooked them into wanting to hear more. So a very good example of stating an amazing fact to effectively open your talk. And the last technique we're going to look at is using a quote. And I think the best way to illustrate this is to show you the brief opening from Obama's State of the Union speech in 2013. So take a look at the quote that he uses here.
51 years ago, John F. Kennedy declared to this chamber that the Constitution makes us not rivals for power, but partners for progress. It is my task, he said, to report the State of the Union. To improve it is the task of us all. Tonight, thanks to the grit and determination...
So Obama invoking John F. Kennedy to open his State of the Union there. Okay, so we've seen some more complex examples, some more advanced language use to effectively open presentations. Let's take a look at a more basic example of an expression being used to effectively open a talk in expressions in action. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you a question. How many letters are in the longest word in the English language? Keep listening and you'll find out at the end of my presentation. Good morning, my name is Joshua Drury. So using a question at the beginning of your talk and then telling the audience they'll get the answer at the end is a good way to ensure that the audience will listen to you when you're speaking, and it's also going to help your conclusion to sound better prepared and will also be more memorable. Okay, so here we looked at effective openings. This means hooking the audience, and we also talked about 3 ways to open effectively.